If you're watching this right now, you made it up until this point.
You're here.
You're here.
Congratulations.
You are now listening to Trini D.
Fast fine.
They call me Trini D.
Declassified. So in today's society, in today's day and age, especially in today's country, something that's extremely important, it's very much a hot topic, a current event, an issue to some people, is mental health. Lots of people talk about mental health. Lots of people talk about therapy. Coming from a person being from the islands, that's something that was never, ever, ever, ever even thought of in my family and my bloodline. But coming to this country of America and now just a lot of the world in today's day and age, they're really, really starting to get on this trend, so to speak, of mental health, whether it's studying it, whether it's taking advantage of it, whether it's trying to be better and trying to learn more about it. On today's episode of Trini Declassified, I have one of my very, 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 very special guests here. She has just graduated with a Master of Arts in Clinical Mental Health Counseling.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, Carolina.
Yay.
How you doing?
Well, thanks for having me. I'm doing really well. And I just want to say I really love and appreciate how you kind of like started the show saying like when you're from the islands and you didn't really, there wasn't such a thing or a talk of mental health. And I kind of like resonated with that, you know, being where I'm from. Well, I'm born and raised in Miami, but very Latina background. So I appreciate that.
Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk a little bit about your background. You're born in Miami, but where are like your parents from?
My dad is Colombian. My mom's Dominican.
Okay.
So very strong mix. And I'm very proud to be extremely connected to both of those cultures. I just love it. It's
She
amazing.
does. She does.
I absolutely love it.
So how has that been growing up in terms of not just in South Florida, but like also from those two specific countries? In terms of mental health, you mentioned how you kind of resonated a little bit with that.
Therapy back in the day when I was growing up, it was essentially meant for people who are crazy,
Of course.
quote unquote. And so it wasn't really looked at in a positive way, and it was really stigmatized. And you know, I think in high school, you know, I was still in Miami, and I experienced a lot of anxiety and a lot of, you know, different things going on in my life, different stages, you know, growing up. I mean, I went to an all-girl Catholic high school, so you can only imagine.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I did not know this. Wow. Yeah,
Yes.
that's a lot. That's
and
a
it
lot
was
to do with.
intense, and
Yeah.
it was really intense, and it was you're constantly competing with the girls in there and, you know, experiencing anxiety. And I remember mentioning, I don't remember who it was, but it was someone in my family. I'm like, oh, I have anxiety, or I'm a little anxious. And they're like, no, you're just being dramatic.
Just rubbed it off.
Yeah. Yeah. Or just like, or pray it away, you know, and kind of thing. So, yeah, so that's kind of been my, kind of connection with mental health, being as Latina as I am, especially from Miami, and then put parents on top of that.
With their background.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how did that get you into actually studying it?
So I went through a lot of changes in high school, right? And a main change, and this all like blends in with like what I do on the side as well. I gained a lot of weight in high school, a lot. And like before high school, I was an athlete, and then in high school, I became like a theater geek, and I was very happy and proud of that.
Oh.
But along that came a lot of deep sadness and like self-loathing and just my self-esteem was like on the floor. And so when it came to study in college, I actually had decided to go into college like business, like international business first. And I'm like, wait, I don't.
Just didn't work out for you.
It just didn't work out. So I was like, I really hope I can make people feel good. And I wouldn't want anybody to feel like me the way I felt like when I was that age, you know, like 14 or 15 years old. You shouldn't be worrying about that stuff. And so I decided to study psych. And I graduated in 2017. And then I just took a long hiatus, because I just graduated with my master's on Saturday.
Congratulations again.
Thank you. After that, I entered the fitness industry, and that's where I kind of like really saw like my passion for people's mental health. And because you can enter the fitness industry for your physical appearance and whatnot, but seeing the actual mental change, the way people walk, the way they carry themselves, going against their own odds in their physical shape, and they may be there for their physical shape at first, but then getting to the root of the why and seeing how they carry themselves, that's what kind of made me.
It drove you.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You said you were an athlete before all of this, though, right? Like before.
Yeah, like soccer, and
This is like middle school, I'm guessing.
this
or-
was middle school and elementary school, so a
Gotcha.
long time ago.
So, what made you get out of being an athlete into being the theater geek in high school?
I think it was the competitive nature of sports. I was also in softball, and softball was really intense.
Really?
Yeah, super competitive.
I would never imagine.
Yeah. And I would like not enjoy it at all. And I loved me, and I used to love musicals growing up, you know. And my mom would show me. She would like show me musicals and not even know what they were. So I don't know if you've ever heard of like the musical Rent, but
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Well, she showed me Rent with like super young, not really knowing what it was about.
Yeah,
And so that was kind of like my first like kind of like, whoa, like this is amazing. And so in high school, when I saw that there was like a drama department and whatnot, I was like, oh, maybe. And at that point, I thought I could sing. I don't know if I could ever sing. I thought I could.
I mean, I've heard you sing a little bit. I mean,
No, ever since I started like in the fitness thing, my voice and my vocal cords have just suffered
gone.
a lot. Yeah.
yeah,
they're
just that
gone.
hoarse tone.
Yes. Yes.
Did you do any actual like plays, like when you were in?
Yes,
What'd you
I
do?
did. Oh my God, what did I do? I was a spoon in Beauty and the Beast, and I was so proud. I was so proud to be that spoon. I was a stage manager in this musical called Light in the Piazza. I did 42nd Street, and like we learned literal tap dance for like 6 weeks while rehearsing for the show, and I still find myself doing like the tap moves and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
That makes so much sense now. Now that I know who you are, like it kind of it all like.
I'm a very lively
combines.
person.
That's awesome. So why'd you get out of that, if I don't mind?
I think when I graduated high school, I was like, okay, maybe musical theater is not my thing. And because I saw people that really, really were so talented
Passionate too.
and like go to New York and like
yeah.
transform their lives.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I didn't have enough belief in myself to either work on my voice and kind of perfect it and go beyond Miami. And I was also scared of leaving.
I was going to
another
say, you
state.
probably didn't want to leave Florida too, right?
I probably didn't want to leave Florida because I'm very connected to my Latino or Latina background, and
Respect.
leaving that was terrifying to me.
So after you finished high school, you then went into getting your psych degree.
Yes.
What made you get into that then, if you were coming out of this theater kind of background?
I graduated high school at 17, and then I was really confused as to what I wanted to do, and I ended up spending a semester in Italy
Wow.
learning Italian.
Was this like a first semester of college kind of thing, or just
It was the first semester of college that I just decided to like.
Holy wow.
Yeah.
How was that?
It was amazing. I didn't want to come back. After that, I came back to Miami. I went in, like I said, into business, and I'm like, I don't like this at all. And then I realized like my true passion is to help people feel good about themselves and help people realize their capacities and capabilities. And I was like, okay, maybe psych is a thing.
So that was 2017. You got
That was
your-
2017.
You
Yeah.
graduated from, was it UCF? Or?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes,
shout out.
UCF.
I don't know, you're a knight too. Nice.
I am a
okay.
knight.
Shout out to all my knights. So then after that, how did you get into your fitness journey in terms of being a fitness educator?
Oh God, this is so long. But
No, please give us all the deets. I want to know.
I mean, it was more of like I've always dealt with like self-esteem issues and body image issues. Still currently do. Like I feel like that needs to be normalized.
As we all do. Yeah.
Though we still deal with our issues, but I started. I lived here in Orlando, and I was like, okay, well, I need to do something for me. I was getting pushed by a lot of people to like go, because one thing about the Latino culture is that you have to look perfect all the time, right?
The presentation.
Yes, presentation is everything. And
Gotcha.
so I went into that kind of atmosphere of like boutique fitness studios. So like an Orange Theory, those like small like things. And that was like my first experience, right? So I started going, and then I realized that they had a job opening, and I started working at the front desk.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay, front desk, cool. Like I was like, oh, maybe this is like in the meantime while I figure out what the hell I'm going to do with my life. And then I started seeing people, like the members were super nice and super welcoming, and they were just fantastic. And they were like, you should become a coach. You should become a coach. You should become a coach. And I realized that I was like gravitating towards like seeing how these people, and by people I mean coaches, really motivate and how they can change people's lives seriously. and I saw it in real time, and I'm like, dang, I want to go beyond the glass. I want to go behind the glass. I want to go in there.
Okay.
So I ended up, just getting my certification, doing all the things that I needed to do, prepping, learning the verbiage, the language, all that there is to do. And I became a coach. And it was incredible.
How long did that take? How long is the whole certification process?
It took me about 6 months.
Okay.
And then after that, I just decided, I started coaching, started learning. I worked really hard. I would sit in classes, watch classes, listen to coaches, look up classes online to see what, coaches would say and stuff like that. And then slowly but surely, my experience there, it was more of like, okay, you're really stepping into who you are. Because I didn't even know who I was at that point.
Yeah, you're fresh out of college or just
fresh out of college. I was working there, yeah. And then when I was like 23 is when I became a coach.
And you started coaching. This was at Orange Theory too?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
So where did that lead you to? Like, how did that branch you out to anywhere else?
So the pandemic happened.
It did.
Shout out. I went back home and I spent it locked down with my family, and I had like this 20-year-old spin bike it's an old spin bike. And I started, taking classes online of a different brand. And I started posting videos online, and my friends, like, people started messaging me like, oh, you should become a spin instructor and all this stuff. And I'm like, heck no. Like, I was like, no way. I'm like, there's no way, because some of the things that they do are just absolutely insane.
Oh, yeah.
And so then slowly but surely during the pandemic, I just started like working. And then when things started slowly opening, I was like, okay, maybe this is something that I can do. And I auditioned, got in, and, worked really hard as a spin instructor to just really like become as known and as powerful as I can be. And, while still dealing with that imposter syndrome, like who am I to be doing all of these things and motivating these people when I'm not even kind of feeling myself in the moment. And then after that, just a lot of career opportunities started popping up. And I guess, fitness kind of became I don't know, like, people just know me through fitness. And it's been fantastic. And, the person that motivated me to go to grad school was a member at like one of these boutique fitness studios. So shout out to Phil.
Shout out to Phil.
He's
She graduated. She finally did it. All thanks to you. That's great. How was it any different doing spin instructing versus like actually coaching at Orange Theory? Because you're saying you did a lot of tips. You studied like what coaches would be saying.
Yes.
Was there any difference now that you're going into kind of like a different type of athleticism?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, with kind of like the standard coaching ones, like, for example, like Orange Theory, the other brands that I was part of, like ISI, like all these other, fitness brands that didn't necessarily require us to do the workout at the same time. That's like a big factor, right?
Right, yeah.
So like, with the group fitness classes that are usually me walking around and showing movements, that is way different than me being on a bike and actually doing it with them. And so you have to have like a certain capability to be on a bike and to teach, and then focus on lights, and then focus on your music. And then if anything goes wrong, like, you have to be in charge of all that. So the level of stress is different. It's different, but I love it. I mean, I'm stressed all the time up there, but it's like so fun at the same time.
So do you prefer actually teaching like on the bike, or do you prefer like group fitness training, or is it just pros and cons?
I mean, I think it's pros and cons, but I do feel like more of myself on the bike.
Really?
Because we ride to the music, right?
Yeah.
So I put music essentially. I put music that my members like, but I put music that motivates me, right?
Yeah.
And choreography and all this stuff, and you're moving with the music, you're feeling the actual music. Like, yes, like in group fitness, we can be playing the jams and stuff like that, and people be bopping and whatever, but like inside the spin room or the ride room or whatever you want to call it, it's pretty, like, you can create like a lot of magic with music.
You call it magic. I call it pain.
Pain?
That just looks like so much. I have never been to one of her spin classes, but I have been to a lot of your group fitness training classes. That is actually where we met.
Yes.
She's a fantastic coach.
Thank
phenomenal,
you.
Amazing. But the number one thing I would say, yes, besides your great skills, is her playlist. Always had a phenomenal playlist. Loved hearing it. But I think that that's exactly why I would never do a spin class, because you're
Right.
consistently like 1, 2, 3, 4, like 1, 2.
Well, yeah.
That's I need a break.
And we're riding on a lead leg. So I have to, so like the beat, like if I say right leg, like we're on the right leg.
Oh, you switch legs?
Oh yeah.
Oh, get the hell out of here. That's just a nuisance. I'm here to work out, and
It's so fun.
not to step. Like, get out of here. But that's all right. So I'm glad that it kind of just was I don't want to say random thing, but may have just kind of just like fell into your lap almost.
It really did. And I
Yeah.
think it was, and you know, it hasn't been sunshine and rainbows, you
Of
know,
course,
like
of
this
course.
industry can be really tough. And I've learned a lot throughout the years that I've been in it. And I'm really grateful because it's through all of my experiences that I have had that I'm the person or the woman that I am, and the coach essentially that I am today, which is very different than when I started back in like 2018, 2019.
When you talk about the imposter syndrome, I mean, that's pretty much what creates the opposite of that. That creates the character that you are, is by having those experiences, by having those years of work of just people knowing you. Like, it's been about like over 2 years that we've known each other now.
I know,
And I'm
isn't
like,
that crazy?
It's insane because, I mean, I've built up probably the reputation of being this DJ guy. You've built up this reputation of being a fitness woman. And it's like, wow, I don't think I would ever get that reputation so easily, maybe like
Never.
5-6 years ago, you know?
Oh, never.
So it's a good thing in terms of you mentioning the imposter syndrome. I think that's a good way to combat it. Just do it. You know what I mean? Do it for a few years and you're going to be like, well, I am that person.
Yeah.
I'm no longer trying to be. I shouldn't feel like I'm pretending to be. Like, people come up to me for fitness advice because, damn, I've been doing this shit for like years. So.
You've been putting in work.
So it's good. You too. You know what I mean? But that's what I like that. I like that you brought it up. I love your whole fitness journey. I really didn't know that it came just from you working at the front desk, which kind of seems to be like a trend from the front desk people that I see at most places.
Yes,
Like,
because I feel like they really see how it's like the belief that I have in other people. It's like I see that the things that they are capable of and they don't see it themselves. So when you have someone say, I see you and I know that you can, it's like it's life-changing for them.
No,
and
is.
it motivates them to do different things, not even inside the gym but outside.
That's
you know,
so true. Let me go ahead and just say this. You were that inspiration for me too. I hope you know
Nick.
that, okay? Let me give you your flowers while you deserve it.
Thank
because
you.
prior to joining the group fitness place that we were a part of, this was, I want to say 2022, January, something like that. I was nobody. And I mean that, like, I was the typical LA fitness guy, just working out 3-4 times a week.
Yeah.
Maybe knew how to bench a little bit or like lift some weights, but like the stuff that I learned how to do, the actual HIIT workouts, the actual 50 minutes of just sweat and endurance, that was brand new to me. So to jump into that just out of a limb, just being scared, it was close to my house, I wanted to do it. Meeting coaches like you and everybody else that I met from there, it really is exactly like you're saying. Like, you're not exaggerating on anything you're saying.
Yeah.
But to see somebody who just came from nothing and then became, I mean, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I was like the star of that place, you know? Like, I'll be walking around high-fiving people and everybody's like, I'm trying to get like
Nick was a vibe. Nick
you know?
was a vibe.
I was doing 2-a-days and stuff. Like, I'm just saying, like, you know.
Yeah, and we would miss you when you wouldn't, when
thank
you
you.
weren't in there.
But it's just like I was not that person 2 years ago. You know what I mean?
Right.
I would have never done a 2-a-day workout, let alone 2 50-minute HIIT workouts.
Yeah.
So
And they were hard.
oh no, they were
They
tough.
would kick your butt.
They were like literally, and the fact that we saw grown ass people in their 50s and 60s doing the same workout you're doing, I see exactly what you mean. It's motivation when you see somebody just go from nothing to something essentially. I feel like it's a lot more rewarding from the coach's side though. Like, I just look at it from a peer-to-peer perspective, but when you're actually training them, it's probably a lot of rewarding feeling.
I don't necessarily think about myself in that situation. I really do think about like, wow, like that stuff that you said, that means a lot, right? Yeah. So it's more of like, I don't think about the like the reward and satisfaction, like, oh, we got you here. No, it's like you had it all along, right?
You guys do say that a lot.
You had it.
It sounds so corny when we're hearing it from you.
I know. There's this one instructor. She's like a huge inspiration of mine that she says always like action creates confidence, right? And, you know, it's true. Like, action does create confidence. You know, you said that you were nobody and then, you know, you decided to take action, come in, work out. I still remember your first session.
I did too.
Yeah, I still remember. And you know, you decided to be consistent, right? Yeah. And then now, or not now, but before, you know, before we had left that place, you were, like you said, you were the star. Everybody was like, oh, is Trini D coming in? Is Trini D coming in? And I would be so excited because it would be awesome.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But thank you also for helping me. I mean, I'm sure you've helped a lot of people, but like you're not wrong. I feel like I'm just one of the few examples of just starting something new and setting off into something great.
Yeah.
I see some people now that we worked out with and trained with that have their own fitness pages, that are doing so much more outside of the place we left, are still doing those types of workouts. And it's like, wow, like I feel like really nobody was this person like a few years ago.
No.
And that just makes me happy to see the progress and just the consistency that we all put in.
And the fact that like they became, and I know like who you're talking about, like they became my friends, right? Like they became like basically like my chosen family here, right? And I believe wholeheartedly that we are meant to, like, it's very hard for me to come in as a coach and then to learn about your life, see you go through the struggles as you come in, see you overcome those struggles, and then us like just maintain that relationship at the gym. That's very difficult because we are part of your lives. Yeah. You know, so I love seeing all of that. I love seeing everybody who I have had the privilege to learn about their lives, you know, because I think that's a privilege. That's a huge privilege to know about your life. Yeah. It's a huge privilege to know about anybody's life, for them to kind of, you know, go beyond what they thought that they could do.
It's special. It's special when you get to see the change, but you also get to be involved in their personal lives. And I know you are. You be hanging out with us. That's nice.
Yeah,
we appreciate
it's the best.
I mean, there's a lot of people you were talking about from the people we know. You also mentioned Phil, who also helped you start you get your degree or like recommended. How did that start? Yeah,
so he is a member at Orange. Well, he was, I don't know if he still is. Was a member at Orange Theory, and I had announced like, hey, you know, I'm leaving, blah blah blah. And he goes, oh, like what's next? And he's like this, you know, older dude, a senior. He was getting his counseling degree.
Oh wow.
As well. He wanted to help seniors, right? And so he said, what's next? And I'm like, I have no idea. No clue as to what's going to happen for my future. I was very, very, very lost, and I didn't have a sense of identity at the time. And he goes, well, he gave me his card, and slowly but surely we started meeting every week. And I'm like, I really love helping people's physical and mental health. I really do. It's a passion of mine. I also want to help fitness instructors who deal with burnout, because I don't think that's talked about enough. I think fitness instructors are held to such a high standard.
Very true.
And the amount of work that is put in, I don't think we get enough credit, you know, for the work that we do. And he was like, well, guess what? You got to go back to school. And I'm like, great. And so that's when we decided, okay, I'm going to apply and get my master's in clinical mental health counseling.
So he helped you with the application and everything, I'm guessing? Or
not so much. We did like a 5-year plan. We did this personality assessment to like really get a good grasp on who I am as a person and all this stuff. And then I wrote an essay, and he checked the essay, resume, all that stuff, sent it in. And then got.
Is this like Uncle Phil from Fresh Prince? Like, what Phil? Because this is like the nicest person.
He is literally, you know, like throughout the program, things got really busy and we lost touch. But before I graduated, I went to have breakfast with him, and I am so grateful for Phil. And you know, he gave me a picture frame that I have hanging in my room of Don Quixote. And Don Quixote, if you don't know, is someone like, you know, when he goes around, he helps everybody who comes around. Like anybody that needs help, he will help them. And so he gave that to me before I started school, and it's been hanging in my room ever since. Yeah. And I invited him to my graduation, but he was a little sick that day, so he couldn't make it and that's okay. But I am eternally grateful for that person. My parents are very grateful for him too.
I'm grateful for you, Phil. Like that. Like, shout out to you. This sounds like an amazing, amazing role model figure in your life. I'm glad you had somebody that put you in kind of the right direction and got you to that. Get well soon, Phil. Get well soon, please. Wow, that's great. So you started applying. This is for Rollins, right?
Rollins College, yeah.
How did that go once you finally got accepted, or once you finally started realizing this is for real?
So I had a meeting with one of the professors there at the time, Dr. Sanabria. Shout out to Dr. Sanabria. I love him. He was, I think, some kind of director of the program at the time, and he just told me everything about it. And I told him my background, and he was like, yeah, like apply, see what happens. And then I got in, and first day of class, our first professor, her name is Dr. De Lorenzi, which is an amazing human being. And she told us, she's like, your lives are going to change.
That was your first day of class?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. That's so dramatic.
It's dramatic, but it's so true.
Did your life change?
You are, yes. She's like, you are going to become a better person. And you may not be around the same people that you're around by the time you graduate. And she was 100% correct.
I was going to say, yeah, she wasn't wrong on that.
She was not wrong.
She was not wrong.
She was not wrong. I had a different partner at the time, and things happened. And during the program, I really started stepping into who I was as a human and as a woman. And it was very social justice focused. So those things were really important to me, and it's part of my values now. Seeing the way I changed and seeing the way I started slowly removing people that were not, in that or part of that or didn't align with me and my vision and what I needed in people. It was a very lonely thing. It was very lonely at some points, but it did help me to become who I was. And she was like, she said it. She's like, you're going to become a better person. Your life is going to change. And that's exactly what happened.
Maybe you could correct me if I'm wrong. I think a lot more better people have come into your life since then.
Oh my gosh. I mean, those are the people that I need. Like I said, like everybody that I have here is like my chosen family, because my family's down in Miami. And so having the people that I have here, they know who they are. Just they mean the world to me.
No.
Yeah, they really do. It's incredible. It's insane how life-changing like good people can be.
Yeah, supportive people, unconditionally love people.
Yes, absolutely.
Did you have a lot of that in your family in terms of like your family back home?
Yes, and it was growing up. It was I'm a first generation American, so I was the first one. So you already know that's extra pressure, high performance.
I know, yeah.
High performance, you need to excel all the time. You need to get the straight A's. You need to get this. You need to get that. Yeah. And it wasn't so much a thing that my parents told me. It was more of a pressure that I was putting on myself.
It was a little bit of both for me, but did your parents never really put that pressure on you?
I mean, of course, like there was some pressure, but it was more of like I needed to make my family proud. You know, my dad came to this country with nothing. My mom as well. They built the life that they wanted for themselves. I got to do the same thing. Like
the very least you can do is get that degree, right?
The very least that I can do is graduate college, right? And so, or excel in everything, or get into the preparatory schools, you know? And
Well, because I asked because like we were talking earlier about how culturally, being from the islands and things like that, mental health isn't really a big thing in terms of therapy, in terms of medication. It's looked at either as you're really crazy or it's looked at as kind of like a privilege almost. Like, oh, I mean, like I'm sure you may have heard this. It's like a white people thing. Like it's not like something that people of our race or people from the island background should have. So I'm just curious, like with your parents and just your family in general, once you really steered into the psychology, clinical mental health kind of direction, how did they feel about it? How was their opinion about it?
One of my family members, she's like, that thing that the young people have that they're all depressed. I'm like, and I always correct, them. I'm like, no, that's not it. We're trying to break cycles. Yeah. Right. And I think my parents, they are supportive. They want me to do what I love to do. Yeah. Right. And it's more of like, they're going to let me do my thing.
Of course.
Whether they like it or not. I think they do like the fact that,
I would hope.
Yeah, I think they do. That I did study what I studied, but it also sometimes causes uncomfortable moments and uncomfortable conversations.
Like what? If you don't mind me asking.
I mean, God, there was like one time where I ruined Thanksgiving because I called out like a behavior that just wasn't okay. It caused for an uncomfortable moment, and dinner was like, all right, that's it.
Ouch.
Yeah. And so there are certain things that you start to notice, especially coming from a program that is so social justice based.
Yeah.
And one of our main kind of things is cultural competency. So being cultural, like humility, right? Like knowing very well that we don't know everything about other people's cultures,
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
And kind of saying that within session, like when you're with a client or when you're with someone that you're sharing that space with, like, oh, like I am not from here and I am not, and I don't know what your customs are like. I want to learn. Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, being vulnerable in that sense and learning all the social justice stuff has really, you know, not changed me, but I guess enhanced who I am. And
like
sometimes, yeah. And then sometimes, you know, I think family is not ready to hear it. And that's okay.
I think family, if they're not studying it, if they're not really like, I don't want to say force fed it, if it's not in their face for a 2-3 year program, they have no reason to really think that way.
They don't, and that's not their fault.
There are certain people, I don't want to call it ignorance, but it's just when they're not involved in that kind of education, they really don't have a need to change it, especially when they're coming from a cultural background. But I can't imagine what it's like going through a program where they teach you to try and educate people on it and like having to, I wouldn't say correct, but you know, educate is a better word, and they're just not having it because they're your family.
No, yeah. Somebody said once that like nobody's a prophet in their own land or something like that. It's in Spanish. Nadie es profeta en su propia tierra.
Okay.
Which means like you're not, like I can study all the things, I can know the things, but at the end of the day, they know better. And you know, and at some point, like I respect it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I call it out because it's like, I'm like, come on, y'all. Like, we're better than this.
And that's I think the main point is we want to be progressive. And I think maybe our family or just any cultural background, they don't look at it as progressive.
No.
They may as look at it as like maybe conforming or maybe just
or like that
beliefs.
American thing.
Exactly.
Like, you're doing the American thing again.
This is just a progressive way of thinking. Like, especially for mental health, especially for acceptance of cultures. But besides that, were they at least okay with your program and like your job placement in the future and things like that?
Oh, of course. I mean, I don't have anything lined up right now, but it's more of like, like they're extremely supportive, and they know that's what I love to do, and they know that fitness is also a thing that I love to do. So, you know, my hope and my desire would be to combine both, right? Okay. And they are supportive of that. You know, it's just, you know, I think right now, especially with our economic climate, as you would say, it's very difficult to find something that will sustain you. And so, you know, navigating that, but I know that they're really supportive of anything that I do. They've been supportive since, you know, day one. So
they're not mad you didn't like finish it up with the international business degree. Like, they're perfectly fine with you now.
Because you know, at 17, you don't know what, like, who you are.
It's true,
right? And so when I went to Italy, my dad is a very passionate person, and I love him. He's my hero. And he said, you could be international business. Like, oh my God, you could travel the world. And so, like, you know, I always feel the pressure to kind of like be this person that my you know, somebody that my dad is proud of.
Yeah.
You know, but at the end of the day, I know that he's supportive in anything that I do. He tells me all the time. And he always tells me, if you want to come home for a couple days, come home, you know, like all those things, you know. So yeah, they're very supportive.
You mentioned how you wish to combine the two.
Fitness and mental health.
The Masters of Arts in Clinical Mental Health Counseling.
Yes.
Plus your fitness experience.
Yeah.
Give me an idea. What would that be like? What would be like your dream combination?
I mean, it's more of like, I think group fitness is my gig, right? Like just like motivating people through movement, right? And really changing the language around movement, and not working out because I have a beach, like I'm going to the beach in 2 weeks or whatever, or working out because I have a wedding and I need to fit into my dress, or, hey, I just had a burger, so I'm going to go take 2 classes or whatever. It's really changing the language around that. Right. And it's like considering or making movement not feel as a punishment. And more of something that is joyful. Okay. I think that is something that is huge, and using elements of therapy in movement, right? So there's certain languages and certain words that I use. I don't know if you remember. I would say you don't have to, you get to, kind of thing.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and so those kinds of things, and then probably creating kind of like a group, you know, counseling experience throughout the whole thing. I don't necessarily know what that looks like for real, but that's kind of like what I'm headed towards.
I like it. I like your blueprint so far.
Thanks.
It's nice. You mentioned the word movement, and that is a word that I can personally say I remember that you did a lot when you were my group trainer, when you were my coach. There are people who would wish they can do what you're doing right now.
Yeah, I said that today in my class too.
And stuff like that, it really resonated with me. I have an older sister who got into a little bit of an accident a couple years ago.
Okay.
She was on a golf cart flipped over. She
Oh my
ended up
God.
hurting her leg. It was bad for a while to where my parents had to like go take care of her and like just watch after her for months. But like, I think it was around the time when I was taking your classes and you would say stuff like that. And I would think to my sister, I'm like, damn, like she can't hike, she can't walk, like she literally can't use the bathroom at sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, so it was one of those, like, it was a good reminder of like, wow, movement is a very good blessing. Like it's not just like you were mentioning, I got to get a 6-pack for the summer and I got to look good. Like it's actually moving and enjoying the movement and loving the fact that, we're here in a physical body for such a short amount of time. And even in that short amount of time, there's less time where we're actually moving, right?
Yeah.
When you're an infant, when you're young, when you're old, when you're injured, when you're just lazy. So I'm glad you mentioned that word because that word kind of stuck with me a lot. I like that word movement.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something you got to just like trademark also as well.
I'm moving. Yeah, I didn't know that, you were going through that at the time. So thank you for sharing that with me. But yeah, I think I've seen the way like some of this language is used and how it affects people. And I trained at the place that, you went to for about 2 years and saw tons of people and they're very grateful for me. Like
we are.
And it's very weird sometimes because like I said before we even started, like y'all had it in you the entire time, as cheesy as that sounds.
Yeah.
But I think it's important for people to feel seen and not just a number, not just a member, not just a person that pays to come here and gets a workout in. And some people do that. Some people just pay, want to work out and leave. Hey,
Do your thing.
Do your thing. That's fine. A lot of people go into these classes and a lot of these coaches like, this is the transverse abdominis and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, y'all, let's vibe, And obviously there's education around it.
Of course.
A lot of these members want experiences and not just an education session about muscles and whatnot.
No, that makes sense. You can go on YouTube for that.
Yeah. They want the actual experience and there's nothing like the in-person experience, right?
No, not at all.
I just love the in-person stuff.
We can tell.
Yeah.
What is the typical job placement for somebody with your degree? You just graduated 3 days ago. What is like the typical jobs that people with your degrees get?
Yeah, that's a great question. It depends what I want to do. So there's different centers, right? So if I want to work on agencies, there's agencies in Orlando that deal with like eating disorders, right? So Renfrew is a center that, you apply, you become one of their counselors. You're under a supervisor. So right now I would register with the state of Florida and then I would have to register under a supervisor, which is someone who is licensed, right? Because I'm not licensed yet.
Gotcha.
But you can go into private practice under an agent, like under like a space where a bunch of counselors are, right? And you can start your own private practice or you can do agency work. It just really depends on what you would want to do.
Are you thinking of any of that now, or are you?
So right now I am thinking, Center for Discovery or Renfrew, dealing with eating disorders and stuff like that, because there's a lot of body image, topics and stuff like that, and I'm huge on that. So probably looking into that. Private practice will probably be like in a year or so, because I think going into private practice just doing this by myself is scary.
You just got out too, like
I'm like I'm fresh,
So you would be like an actual direct therapist for people, direct counselor for people through these kind of organizations.
Yes.
So I'm guessing patients would go to them looking for that kind of counseling and help.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's great.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can say like I'm a therapist, and that's weird. That's so weird.
That's the imposter syndrome thing.
Yes.
Like, you can be a therapist with your degree, but would we still consider you a doctor?
No.
Because you don't have a PhD, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
so then what would I call you in like my therapy sessions?
Nothing. My name.
Just Carolina. That's so weird. I got to say doctor something.
No, please don't say doctor. I am not a doctor.
Because both of my therapists, they are not doctors.
Yeah.
But I call them doctor last name. And
really?
And they're just like, please don't call me that. I'm like, it helps me,
Yeah.
I'm laying on the couch just like, doctor. That's
and
weird.
sometimes they don't even say my name. Like most of the time they don't say my name. Because this isn't about me.
True. Yeah, you're right.
This is about you. This is about the client. Like I shouldn't even be sharing like anything with the client.
Your name, your job status.
Yeah, exactly. Like my name, of course, but other than that, this is more about you and your experiences and how we can navigate those experiences together.
Oh, you sound like you just graduated.
Right?
This is so beautiful.
God, it's so official.
So what else would you like to work in besides, you mentioned eating disorders and groups like that? What else do you think is more like your forte? Where do you think you
I
would
think
end up?
athletes are a lot of fun.
Really?
Yes.
Like just besides the physical health, you mean like more in like the mental health?
The
too?
mental health, the performance.
Talk more about that.
I had a little bit of experience seeing athletes in Rollins. They would come to therapy and stuff like that.
Like professional athletes, or?
Well, the athletes of the school, right? Because my internship was at Rollins.
Gotcha.
So the athletes of, we had softball, lacrosse, like all the athletes, and thinking about their performance anxiety, always meeting a certain standard, keeping that pressure and learning how to give themselves grace, I think is huge. There's a lot of body image as well,
I can't imagine.
and a lot of things and a lot of pressure that athletes face being in college. They sometimes they do have to work a second job just to like make ends meet.
Damn.
And and apparently, like, I remember hearing something that they can't get paid over a certain amount because if they're on a scholarship, then that scholarship money gets taken away.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's very complex. It's very, very complex. And seeing these athletes and how they work, they're just always like, we have to be good. We have to win. We have to win. We have to win. It's grueling seeing that.
It's a lot, yeah.
It's a lot. And you really feel for them. So athletes, I think, would be a lot of fun.
That's good. I'm so glad like your specializations. Not to say you'll jump into them immediately, but I'm glad you just have an idea of what you want to do.
Yeah.
That's interesting because my current therapist, she's great at entertainment people. And I think that's who she primarily deals with is like people like me who are in the music industry or people who are in the dance industry, things like that.
Yeah.
But like I mentioned that because my first therapist, she sucked. Like she didn't
Yeah,
know.
that's also like a big topic. Like you gotta like shop around for a therapist, right?
I didn't know that, but yeah.
Yeah, you gotta shop around. And you also, I really do think you also have to be ready for it.
True.
And I hear a lot of people always say, oh, I went to therapy, it didn't work. And it's like, okay, well, let's talk about it. Like, what didn't work? Was it the therapist or was it certain things that were said? Or was it the fact that you maybe weren't ready, Because a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to therapy, so it's fine, right? Or I'm going to therapy and I'm healed. It's like, no, the work is what happens outside of therapy.
That is true. But I feel like she still sucked.
Okay, that's fine. And I respect that.
If I could actually also give myself a little bit of humility, I don't think this was my first therapist.
Right.
So as a man, I don't think that I was fully able to express myself.
Yeah.
I was talking a bunch of shit. I was spilling a lot of tea and gossip, but like actually expressing myself, it was literally just like an hour podcast episode versus like actually expressing how I felt, actually expressing like the deeper emotions that I wouldn't admit. So I think maybe she just got tired of me and I got tired of her. So it was just this like flow.
And that happens.
She literally told me she was moving to Boston and she was hooking me up with another therapist in our organization. Yeah. But I swear on everything, like 2 weeks later, I saw my old therapist at like Lake Nona somewhere and I was it's like, you son of a bitch. You just lied to me. Like I wished her like, hey, good luck in Boston. Like have a good time. She was like, yeah, sure. Yeah. Thanks. Appreciate it. But my current therapist, it's nice to see somebody who has like a niche or like a forte in it.
Right.
Because she really, really is great at entertainment stuff. You mentioned a lot of the stuff that she talks to me about, such as like performance anxiety.
Yeah.
Such as just the pressure of being presentable.
Yeah.
The pressure of being in front of people, right? Like stage fright and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Those are things that certain therapists, like my first one, wouldn't really talk about or wouldn't probably care about or really have the education and experience to really dive into. Versus this one, she is like, I'm telling her how like I feel super nervous before I'm going on a live stream, right?
Right.
Which is in front of like 4 or 5 people in a virtual online setting. But she was like, oh no, like you have every right to feel that way, Like you're trying something new. This is something you enjoy doing. You want it to turn out good. So I'm glad to see that there's certain like therapists that know what their niche is and know what their forte is. Cause I didn't like that one.
Yeah.
I like her at all.
I'm glad that you have one that you like now. And, and also like along with working with athletes, like, you know, like fitness instructors is a thing that I would just love to,
Right.
I would love to just talk to them, you know.
Coming from being one, right?
I would just love to talk to them because, you know, we did at the studio that I work at now, we did a workshop, like it was a weekend long workshop, and we had about an hour where I just like basically like how I'm with you, sitting down with you, and I was just like, how are we doing? And people were all like, oh shit, like we've never been asked this before.
Yeah.
And really talking about the why we do what we do. And realizing that pressure, the exhaustion, the burnout, it is very, very real. And it's time to normalize it, I think, a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think also just with any job that now that we're talking about this, because I've dealt with a lot of like nurses and people in the medical field.
Yeah.
And can't imagine what their mental burnout is like,
Oof.
what their physical burnout is like.
Yeah.
Graveyard shifts, the types of stuff they actually have to deal with. I think everything needs to be normalized in the sense of no matter what job you have, it's okay to be burnt out. It's okay to admit that you're just literally tired.
It's okay to resent it.
And right, like at times just being like, I hate this.
That's when you
sucks.
know that's like literally a sign of burnout, when you start resenting
start
what you
hating
do.
things.
Yeah. When
You know
when
what?
you start
Wow.
hating every little thing that is like, oh my gosh, this person winked at me the other day and I hate it.
That is great.
Yeah.
I just thought it was my time of the month, but that actually makes a lot of sense. I'm just irritated. Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm getting to that point where I just haven't had a vacation, haven't chilled for a while, just working my ass off. And I'm just like, why is this guy in front of me like looking that way?
Oh, and that is also a thing that I don't apologize for, is taking the time when I
Good.
need it.
Good. What are some of the things you do to take the time?
I go home. I
Back
go to
South
Miami,
Florida?
back
Okay.
to South Florida. Get a lot of rest.
I thought you were gonna say hammer.
No. I mean, no, but no. Just rest and, you know, traveling. I love going to Colombia. I love just being away for a while.
I have friends who are relaxing 24/7, but they're like, bro, I need to chill. I need to relax. And I'm like, do you not realize this is what you're doing? And then I got people like me who are working and truthfully don't relax and take that time. And I don't find that time, or like I used to never intentionally find that time. So I'm glad you brought it up because I think that that's important, the whole burnout thing for anybody's job, but taking the time to just treat yourself and relax, whether it's a beach day, seeing family,
Yeah.
traveling if you can afford that.
If you can afford it and if you have the resources to, right? Because you have to take that into account.
Colombia is very affordable. All right, let me just tell you that.
It's amazing. I love it so
It's
much.
beautiful. But I'm glad you bring that up because that's something that we all need to definitely learn how to do a lot more, is just taking even your PTO, you know what I mean? Even just like your time off from work, even if it's like sick time, whatever you have, if you're not using it, use it. Take those mental health days, which is something I learned a lot later in life. The same way you have a headache or migraine and you want to take a physical day off, if you're just not feeling it, take a mental health day off.
Yeah, and I say that, you know, like, let's not take advantage of the fact that, oh, I'm just gonna, you know, it's
Yeah.
more of like, what is your body really telling you? Because a lot of, like, you know, we've been through a lot of things in our lives and our body holds on to it. Our body really does hold on to it. All the stress, all the anxiety, all the stuff that we've been through, all the hurt, the pain, the anything that we've been through, our body holds on to it. So usually, and I remember this very vividly, I forgot who said it, but usually when your body starts reacting, it means it's already like too late, right?
I'm glad you brought it up that it's okay to listen to your body once in a while. It's okay to literally tell yourself, hey, I'm just not feeling it today. But from a man's perspective, we don't ever give ourselves that acceptance.
Well, yeah, I mean, think about what society has really put on men and women, right?
Yeah.
Now the narrative is changing
Yeah.
to where we want to help men with their mental health because, you know, coming from, you know, my background, there is no such thing.
No, I know.
You know, men don't cry, men don't this, men don't that. And, you know, like it's now the narrative is changing, right? And allowing for emotions to be felt and heard and seen and be accepted, I think is important in men and women, especially.
Like, for example, I'm currently on antidepressants right now. Don't care about it. It's just like,
Yeah.
you know, me going to therapy, me trying something new.
Yeah.
And it was almost like a thing for some of my boys and some of my friends to where they're like, oh, like I thought people get on that when you're like really crazy or like when you're schizophrenic or going through like real depression. I'm like, bro, do you even know what any of those are? Like, do you really understand what people go on medication for? So I feel like that stigma is still there to where it's like, even if you are on medication or going to therapy, people still think it must be because something's severe.
Well, yeah. And, we have like, I love it, but we do have TikTok and people on TikTok love to throw around a lot of terms that they don't really know the meaning of.
True.
So I can understand why I assume like your friends like throw around all these terms all the time, but that's the point, right? We're trying to destigmatize
Of course.
going to therapy. We're trying to destigmatize taking medication. And people have a very good or a very bad view of medication and what it can do and what it can provide.
We talked a lot about your career, your future, hopeful job placements. We talked a lot about mental health. We talked a lot about the stigmatizations, especially in the cultures, in the genders. Where do you see not just your job placement, but just the idea and the culture of mental health 10 years from now? Where do you see everything?
Oh my gosh, that is a great question. 10 years from now, I hope, that we can change the way of thinking when it comes to movement and also when it comes to counseling and all that stuff. I just hope that more counselors out there are providing safe spaces for people. Because, part of the work that you're doing is opening up yourself to a complete stranger that you know nothing about.
True. Right?
You don't know anything about them. And you're still willing to open up and say things about your life. And that's a privilege for us to know as a therapist, as a clinician, as whatever you want to call it. And so I think because, the therapists are given sometimes a really bad rep. And, sometimes there are bad ones out there, just like everywhere, and I think hopefully in 10 years from now, it would be more of a space where therapists are accepted and more accessible. I think that would be huge.
What about in the next 10 years in terms of like actual therapists or even fitness instructors? What do you think or what do you hope kind of comes from that? We've seen a lot of a boom like with the social media and the pandemic, how that created like this at-home kind of fitness instruction. Where do you think or where do you see that kind of boom leading into the next 10 years?
The workout from home and stuff like that, it's very much still relevant and still very much in right now.
Yeah.
I think people are missing the human connection though.
Really?
My way of connecting with others is really the in-person thing. Really seeing a human for who they are is huge because I think when people feel seen, their lives transform. So I'm hoping that the in-person stuff stays relevant because I've only been able to change people's lives in person.
That's so beautiful. Like honestly, like I'm hearing it, but I'm also feeling it because I feel like I've experienced that through your coaching as well.
Thank you.
And it's nice to see that that's actually really what your motive is because I think you're getting it down. I think you're actually fulfilling what you feel like your prophecy is. What advice do you have for people who are not just fearful of starting in the fitness journey, but also probably in their mental health journey? What kind of advice would you give to them?
I think both in fitness and mental health, you have to be ready to be able to go there. You discover a lot of who you are and your resilience in the fitness industry and in a fitness space. And you really discover your strength and as well as your resilience in therapy, right? You talk about all the things that you've been through and you've made it up to think about it. You've made it up to you've made it through everything that has happened into your life up to this moment. Some way you made it.
True.
There's some resilience there. And that's what I try to teach in my classes in person, right? Like in the fitness industry, like you're going to make it. You're not going to die. You are not going to die today. And through that, you start building that resilience and you start building that window of tolerance. And I just think it's something that you have to be ready for. And if you're one of those people that say like, hey, do it scared. Okay, do it scared. But get ready to face who you are, right? Yeah, because a lot of people in the fitness space, they're like, oh, I can't do this. And I'm like, you can't do it yet. Right? You can't do it yet. And that's okay. It's like you don't expect to be an expert overnight at something that you're just starting to do. Right. And talking about your feelings is something 100% that you need, like that takes reps. like in the gym.
Yeah.
Right.
It's harder than actually bench pressing, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And being vulnerable with people is absolutely mortifying, you know? Yeah.
So basically, did you die though?
Did you die?
That's kind of what builds your resilience. You didn't die. You're not going to die. It's going to be hard, but.
And you made it up to every point, every moment in your life up until this moment.
I love that.
So give yourself some credit for that.
Because everybody has, right?
Everybody has.
Everybody literally
If you're
has.
watching this right now, you made it up until this point.
You're here.
You're here.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Carolina, you are amazing.
Oh my God, thank you.
This has been amazing. Thank you so much for coming here. Any last final thoughts, statements before we get out of here that you'd like to say?
You can follow me on Instagram, Caro Cardenas 831. And also, you know, I am starting a brand called Wear the Damn Shorts. Like I said, you know, I've always faced like self-image issues and, you know, all these things that have happened in my life. Insecurities of wearing shorts. And I recently started wearing shorts, working out, feeling good, and saw how it inspired me and empowered me. And I started saying, wear the damn shorts. And now it's in the process of getting trademarked. So just like stay tuned for the merch, I guess.
Damn shirts.
I am currently teaching at a fitness studio called Urban Bodyworks. It is great. It is fantastic. If you want to take my class, I teach Wednesday nights, Tuesday and Thursday at 6 a.m. Those are weightlifting. No. Okay. 6 a.m. And then Wednesday nights at 6 o'clock and Saturdays at 8:15 on the bike. So you can come and take one. It'll be fun. Yeah.
Carolina, you are an amazing human being.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for everything you've done, honestly, in the last 2 years. It's been a delight. It's been a joy to have met you.
Same.
For you to have helped me get into my fitness journey.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just the start, but I'm glad that you were part of the start. So
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm so
thank
honored.
you so much for that. And I'm glad I'm actually able to share some of the mental stuff with you too. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
mental health is very important to me. It's obviously very important to you with your degree. So I'm glad that I just have somebody that I can open up to and talk to a lot about this. So without paying that therapy fee, because that's a lot.
Absolutely. I'm here all week.
Once again, congratulations on graduating.
Thank you. Congrats on this. This is
thank
cool.
you. Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
it. And thank y'all for listening. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. But please make sure you like, follow, subscribe. We're available on all streaming platforms. We're available on all podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. And make sure you follow us at Trini Declassified. That's Trini, D-E, Classified. Ladies and gentlemen, thank y'all again so much for tuning in. They call me Trini D. Peace and love.
You are now listening to Trini D.
Classified.
They call